Hey guys! So today's video is going to be another disability discourse video, and before we get into things, let me just let you guys know that this week has been a really bad pain week for me, so if I'm looking a little bit of a mess, if you see me shuffling around a bit more than usual or making even sillier faces than usual, that's why. But what better time to make a disability discourse video than when I'm feeling the effects of my own disability, right? Maybe? Anyway, today's topic is going to be the body positivity movement and disabilities. And this is quite a complicated topic. I feel like every topic I cover here is going to be kind of complicated just because disability, or the term disability itself, covers such a wide range of different people and different issues. And then also a lot of the time, the relationship between disabled people and these other social constructs or social movements is also very complicated. So I think just by the nature of the type of things that I'm going to be talking about, a lot of the time it's going to be quite complicated. So anyway, I am going to try to keep it simple and keep it down to two main points. So the body positivity movement is a movement that I generally agree with and think is awesome, that everyone has the right to feel good about themselves and about their bodies, and that society's idea of attractiveness is very narrow and should be expanded, and we shouldn't really buy into all of that. You can only be attractive if you're a very thin white girl, right? So in general, I think that's a good principle, and I appreciate a lot of work that the body positive movement does. However, I do think there are some issues surrounding its relationship with disabled people, and I'm going to talk about those today. So I think these can largely be broken down into two groups. So I'm going to talk about representation of disabled people within the body positivity movement, or lack thereof. And then I'm also going to talk about the complex relationship that a lot of disabled people have with our bodies and how the body positivity movement is kind of unhelpful for that. So let's start out with representation. Let me start by saying that I am very, very surprised whenever I see a body positivity post or like body positivity content that includes disabled people. So that kind of goes to show how unusual it is to see us included in body positivity movement things, which I think is really sad, because if you're talking about everyone and every other thing like weight, race, religion, for example, the hijab is often included in body positivity things, gender presentation, all of those things. If you're talking about everything else, to exclude disabled people, especially within a movement that, as I'm going to talk about later, has a lot of other issues around disabilities, that is kind of hurtful, and it always just sucks to like not see yourself represented. And this is something that the body positivity movement talks about a lot, is that representation matters. And so to avoid representing disabled people is a little hypocritical, I would say. So that's the first thing, is that just generally there really isn't very much representation for disabled people in body positivity. The next thing is anti-representation. I'm not quite sure how to word this, but hopefully you'll understand when I talk about it some more. And that is like not just a lack of representation or kind of an invisibility, but actually detrimental representation. And that would include things like the health at any size movement, and posts that are like, oh, well, I mean, as long as my body is healthy, like what issue is it of yours? Or like, my body is healthy and I love it, and things like that. Like, or like, all healthy bodies are beautiful and things like that. And it's like, here's the thing about that, right? So that just seems to me like it's completely forgetting that unhealthy people do exist and should be allowed to also love our bodies, because health is not the defining characteristic of worthiness either, right? Just like weight isn't, just like color isn't, just like gender isn't. Health is also not a defining characteristic of worth, and it shouldn't be. Like, health at any size is great. Like, I'm glad that you're healthy and you feel happy with that. I'll never be healthy at any size. Like, it doesn't matter how overweight or how underweight I am, I'll always be unhealthy. And that it should also be okay. So to have this definition of body positivity as health is just deliberately excluding unhealthy or disabled people. And I don't think that that's right either, because that's just as narrow a definition as the skinny white girl, right? You're still excluding a whole bunch of people who we can't change that. Like, I can't just get healthy. Like, believe me, we all would if we could. But I can't just take my disability away. So, like, unhealthy at any size is my life, and that apparently makes me less worthy of respect or self-love in the eyes of the body positivity movement. So whenever I see posts like that, it just makes me a bit sad that I get that it's not deliberately malicious, but it does feel like they've just completely forgotten that disabled or sick people exist in the world. So yeah, that's representation and anti-representation in the body positivity movement for disabled folks. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the complex relationship that many disabled folks have with our bodies, and how I think that body positivity is not great for that. So many disabled people have difficulty accepting and loving our bodies because often they cause us pain, or they cause us problems and make it difficult for us to get through daily life because we're not catered to. And that makes it really hard to just love yourself, which is like a lot of what the body positivity movement is about, is just accepting and loving your body, which I think is great if you can. But if your body causes you constant pain, or if your body sometimes scares you or makes you unhappy or doesn't allow you to do the things that you love, it's going to be really hard sometimes to love your body and to accept your body for what it is. And I don't think that that is something to be ashamed of. And often the body positivity kind of mantra of love yourself, it sort of unintentionally shames people who don't love themselves or who can't love themselves. And as someone whose body often causes me pain, well, always causes me pain to some degree, and often it causes me debilitating pain, I don't always love my body. I can't lie to you. I can't say that, oh no, it doesn't matter. I'm disabled and I love it. Like, I just love my body all the time. And it's okay to not love your body and have a more complicated relationship with your body than that. It's very difficult for able people to understand that some days I might love my body, some days I can get up and be like, yes, I can walk, oh, this is amazing, like, I'm just happy that my body is doing what I tell it. Or some days I can look in the mirror and think that I look nice and love my body. But some days, when it hurts and when it's hard to get out of bed, or when I can't get out of bed, it's much harder than just going, yeah, well, I love my body anyway. Society doesn't love my body, but I do. Because it's not society, right? It's me. It's me personally who's being very negatively affected by my body. And I think a lot of disabled people struggle with this. And part of coming to terms with your disability is also mourning and grieving for your body and how it isn't like an able person's body and how it does stop you from doing things. And it's important to allow disabled people the freedom to feel that way and not make us feel guilty for feeling that way. So this is me as a disabled person telling you, if you don't love your body, that's okay. You're allowed to feel that way. And it's completely normal to feel that way. I don't know any disabled people who have always been happy with the way that things are. And I would defy anyone to live in a disabled body and never have negative feelings about it. So I think a lot of this mantra about just loving yourself and loving your body no matter what, I think that negatively affects disabled people because it is kind of shaming or guilt tripping to say that it's society that makes us feel this way, and that, like, if we just free our minds from that, we would love our bodies, because that might be true for a lot of things. That might be true for like a lot of the other things that body positivity fights for, and I think that is true for a lot of them. But for disabled folks, that isn't the case. It's not society that tells me that my body hurts me. My body physically does hurt me, and it's hard to love a body like that, and that's just something that disabled folks have to deal with, that the body positivity movement really doesn't seem to understand or cater to in any way at all. So yeah, that's my little body positivity, not rant, just discussion, I guess. If you have any thoughts about that, I would love to hear them. Like, do you support the body positivity movement? Like, how do you feel as a disabled person within that? Like, do you feel the same as me, or do you feel differently? I would love to hear what you have to say. I feel like I do support the body positivity movement in a lot of ways, and I think a lot of what they're doing is really fantastic. But I do think there's this huge just blind spot about people with disabilities and how we're affected by our bodies and how or the body positivity movement is like actively negative towards us. It isn't even neutral at this point. It's like actively negatively affecting people with disabilities. So I think that that's something that's really interesting and not super great, obviously. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I always love reading what you have to say, and I will get back to you ASAP. Yeah, just some things to think on. Thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.